All right, I'm back for Dusty S's ongoing coverage of Fragicago here at the Scrims Esports Center. So I'm here with Nifty, talking to him, at the end of their event run. They were eliminated earlier in the day, but fortunately they came back, so we got a chance to talk to one of, NA's underrated stars. And with that in mind, how was it playing your first line in, 3+ years at this point?
Yeah, it's been about close to 3.5 years at this point. Let's just put it this way: I'm super happy to be back in the server on land because I always felt like in the past in my career, I always felt the most comfortable at land. I always felt like I get a little bit of a land buff, and maybe that sounds a little biased towards myself or something, but that's just really how I feel. But mostly coming to Fragadelphia was more about like getting to spend time with my teammates, because this is our first time spending time together in person. So yeah, we get to know each other a little bit, have fun, have some drinks, go out to dinner, get to play some land matches, and I felt like we played great overall, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think, but I think you guys did do a great showing for your first land. However, I don't necessarily think we talked to Bobby that maybe you didn't go as far as you want to. How do you consider your results? Considering you didn't take the whole event.
Yeah, I would call it growing pains because it's only been about maybe 2.5 weeks since we've added Dans to the roster. Before that, we had Clasia, of course. So ever since adding Dan's, like we knew because he has a different play style, we have to adjust to him. He has to adjust to us because we have a very long term vision. Like we're thinking about the RMR next year, things like that. So we're really taking our time. We're being very process oriented. We trust Stamina, the structure that he's putting into place. He's our in-game leader. We're by his side. We're with him. So in this event, I think we showed up and we actually did a really good job with how we handled things that we've been practicing, putting into place. We've been executing them well. And then also like in the moments where you kind of have to like split second make things up on the fly or make split second decisions, we did well with that too. But when it came down to it, sometimes our atmosphere can shift. If one or two guys get a little bit tilted, it can kind of throw off our game, and that's sort of what happened in that second map versus Badass Gaming, because we were in total control of that series, and we were ready to go straight to the semis after that. But yeah, it kind of just foiled, and the ball just kept rolling, and it got away from us, and sometimes that happens.
And so you're on this might team now as part of sort of your return to Counter Strike after taking a fairly lengthy hiatus after the end of your time with Envy, and as one of sort of the experienced names who's playing in the lower levels of Counter Strike, I kind of want to hear in your own words like what you think about your teammates and like what motivated you to join this team, because it's definitely different from other projects you've worked on so far since you've returned to CS.
Yeah, for sure. Well, actually, it was just a little bit earlier this year, Bobby reached out and, he was like, hey, I'm going to do this project roster. It was after his little stint with Nouns in Cologne. And he was like, I'm going to do this project roster. I'm thinking me, Clasia, you as an opper. So when he reached out, I had already talked to him in previous moments, back when he was on like Strife even, about joining them then. But I was just like, I'm not sure if it's the right time. So as soon as we got together and he hit me up there, I was like, oh, this is an easy yes, because I don't have a team right now, and I want to play the op role, and he's the in-game leader, and I know he knows a lot about Counter-Strike. So I'm like, I think I can trust this guy, because I've been an IGL op my whole career. So I don't mind passing the torch. However, it's been, a real curveball for me, to learn how to listen more than I speak, because as an IGL, you're always talking. And I was one of those guys who's just yapping all the time to my teammates. So it's been difficult for me, but I know that it's for the better. And that's what I'm trusting Bobby with. But as far as like the rest of the team goes, Scar, DJ, Clasia, but now Dan's. I've learned some things from these guys, and it's interesting to see them go through their growth periods as well. And I think that we're learning a lot from each other. We're always sharing a lot of wisdom. We're a little bit of an older team between DJ and Stamina and myself. So we're always sharing like a lot of wisdom, a lot of ideas. We're having very mature conversations. I'm actually very proud to say that like we are, for the most part, a very mature team overall. We're able to handle our sticky situations, or when we lose a game, we're really able to sort through that in a very mature way. It starts off kind of venting, like getting our frustrations out there. But after that, we just spend a little bit more time talking, and we always reach a place that feels good after, which usually leads to growth for us. So it helps me to be very optimistic for the next 1 month, 2 months, as we start to approach the RMR.
You've taught, so far you've told us a lot about sort of reinventing yourself and the learning process that's come from returning to professional play. And I wanted to sort of turn the clock back a bit to after your end of your time with Envy, not to, retouch over old ground, but when you were post Envy, you do eventually come back, but it's sometime later. Was it a certainty that you came back to Counter Strike?
It wasn't at first. I was not really sure if I was going to come back. I just knew that, like, I need some time off. It's very important for me to kind of like reset, decompress. I mean, at that point, like by the time that Envy project had finished, I think I had been playing nonstop ever since the day that I got on CS:GO for the first time. I never had a vacation. I mean, sure, we had player breaks, sure, we had Christmas vacation, but that time was always allocated straight to my family. But I never had time for myself to really identify the lessons that I needed to learn while I was in my playing career previously, and then not just identify them, but learn them, understand them, and then implement them into a new way of life, a new way of being. And so because I didn't get to do that, that's where my time off was most valuable for me, because I was able to go through that process. And at some point, maybe about a year later, so early 2022 was when I released a tweet longer, like, hey, I want to get back into it. By that time, I felt like I had learned a lot from my time away, and I had decided, like, I do want to play again, because when I come back, I want to do it differently than I did it before, and not just differently, but I want to go farther than I had ever gone before.
And with that, what do you think is the biggest difference between the Nifty of the Renegade days and the Nifty of the Envy days to the Nifty of today?
That's a really good question. I'd have to say, like, in short, I'll say that there's many things, but I think the biggest thing is that, like, in that life, I used to take a lot of things for granted, but not because I wasn't grateful for the position that I was in. It was more so because I was so caught up, I was so absorbed in the experience that I was having, that I didn't necessarily understand what I wasn't doing that I needed to do. And so what's different about me now is that I'm very, even though I'm playing for Might, and we're not even like a paid team, and we're just trying to climb the ladder, I'm just very grateful to have a group of guys around me and climb this ladder together, and get to show what we're capable of, but also grow at the same time, because another thing for me is that I love people. I like to see people get better. I like to help people get better. And I'm a very observant person. So I'm always applying those things to myself and paying close attention. So in short, the biggest thing for sure is just gratitude, man. Like, I'm just happy to be playing Counter-Strike and doing the things that I love.
And it's weird to think about in the sense that you had such a prolific career for such a long time, and then it suddenly stopped. I think a key part of like the narrative of Nifty, the community perception of Nifty, is that you came from Call of Duty. You're a professional Call of Duty player, close to 10 years now. Is it weird for you? What is that like, sort of having the tier one success, sort of the rising trajectory, and then having to start all over again? Is it liberating, or do you have to like? Is it liberating, or does it like almost make you nervous that you won't be able to get back to the high of being a three-time major player?
Sure. Well, I'd be lying if I didn't say that it was challenging. It's been weird to think about. It's strange to even find myself in certain environments and atmospheres that I had essentially bypassed before, mainly because I was just fortunate enough to bypass them. Like, for example, this was my first ever Fragadelphia. I never attended another Fragadelphia before because the way that my trajectory panned out, it's like we were already qualifying for bigger events, far bigger than Fragadelphia at the time, to even attend them. We didn't find it to be valuable to us. So sure, it's been something that I think everyone, if you were to have the same path as me, you would find it to be very, very strange. And I think a lot of people would fold because they're like, holy crap, first of all, can I even do this again? Second of all, like, if I do this again, it's like, am I going to be able to put up with all the growing that I need to do? Because you really have to put, your opinions, your ego, your idea of how the game used to be played, right? And what worked for you at one time, it's not going to work anymore. Sure, you're still going to remember the fundamentals and understand how to play Counter-Strike on a base level, but it's going to take something more. It's going to take something different, because one of the things I immediately noticed when I returned to play was, guess what? The skill floor, it raised. So the natural base players got better, right? And so that was one of the things I noticed, and I was like, holy cow, not only do I have a little bit of catching up to do, but I've got to reorient myself in a way where I can actually execute on what my purpose is here, what it is that I'm actually after, because I'm not the same 17, 18-year-old kid that I was when I initially went professional, to where it's like, oh, I just want to go pro and, maybe win some tournaments. And, that was a very like lazy idea of like what I wanted to achieve. Now I'm very clear on it, you see. And that's where I find it most valuable, even playing at the age of 26. I feel like I haven't yet ever hit my career peak. I feel like I'm on my way.
You mentioned there. You said the ceiling, the or the floor, the skill floor has raised in North America. That's almost unheard of, a paradoxical statement to say that the skill floor has raised. A lot of people are sort of nostalgic for what has been described as sort of the good old days in North America, the era when the likes of you and people like Shazam and all those were playing in the ESL NA Pro League. Do you really? Are players more skilled than they used to be back then?
Absolutely. I think they also understand the game on a more definitely on a more textbook level. I also think that more players are finding out how to take calculated risks and use their intuition a little bit more. This seems to just be true for me, based even in the advanced level teams that we've been playing against. But even in like all the ECL teams, it's like they're when you think about it in context of the entirety of the Counter Strike landscape, playing North American ECL is nothing compared to Tier 1 Counter-Strike grand finals of a major or something like that, and the teams that are playing at that level. Yet, it's still so difficult. The skill gap is small. It seems like in North America, anyone can beat anyone, maybe aside from like a complexity or something like that, right? But so it's been really interesting to find out. But if there's anything, it's told me that like, well, I definitely can't just coast by. I need to make sure that I work hard and that I pay attention to what it is that I need to learn and how to continuously develop, without being too critical of myself, because that was a mistake that I made in the past. I was so critical on myself. Every time we lost a game, I put it all on me, and continuously this weight just bore a very heavy load on me all the time, and I think it's what led to me being very overwhelmed, and feeling like stressed out and burnt out to the point where I needed to sort of temporarily retire. So yeah.
Now, last question for you. In the sense that this is a new era of your career for you, do you think you can serve as an example to some other players from your generation who have unfinished business? And I guess even then, do you have unfinished business? And do you think that's something that a lot of NA players from your generation have? People who maybe went to one major and never went again.
Sure. Yeah, I'll say absolutely. I do think that in our space, we do lack a certain amount of role models. Do I have unfinished business? Absolutely. What I've written into my career already is good, but it's not all that I want. It's not all that I know that I can achieve, because I know that if I achieve the things that I intend to achieve, I can be very impactful for everyone in the community, not even just the North American region. But one of my sole purposes is the hopes to inspire those that are 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, those that are 15, 16, 17, who are getting ready to graduate from high school. It's like, do I want to be a professional gamer? Should I chase after that dream? And I intend to do things and to show you how to do that, but not just by doing it myself, but by teaching in a sense too. Now, I'm not at that point just yet, so maybe I'm giving a little bit of spoilers. But in a sense, I do intend to release certain things, or be the type of person that many players or many fans can look to, and learn lessons from, or perceive things in a different way from how everyone else perceives them, and ultimately be beneficial, right? Because it either changes their mindset, or it allows them to feel relief in their situation, that like, hey, man, you don't really have it as bad as you think you have it. You're just being too hard on yourself. Things like that. Like, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to show. There's a lot of impact that I intend to make, and that's really what I'm after, And when it comes to just me performing out there on the server, like, to me that feels natural to me. To me that's just like a love, a gift that I was given. When I first started playing video games at the age of 6. I feel like I have to take advantage of that as somebody who was gifted in that sense. So it's important that I make do on that gift. So from that point being, like, I just want to be the best that I can be so that I can inspire others.
All right, I think that's a great, mindset to end the interview off. Thank you so much for your time. The new Nifty of CS2. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oop.